Alright, we're back with another episode of Dear Kevin. As always, I'm George Efta, here to talk about my favorite Kevin Smith stuff, and today we're talking about Clerks II. Wow, there's no light if I put it close to the lens. Anyway, this is a Clerks II DVD. See it back here? So, Clerks II. This would be his 7th movie, after the first 5 USQ Universe movies, and then the 6th Jersey Girl of it all. After Jersey Girl, which didn't do well at the box office, didn't do well with the critics, and was just kind of a miserable experience in terms of, you know, the Weinsteins at Miramax put it on the shelf for like a year and didn't release it. They tried to get it released before Gigli because everybody knew Gigli was going to be terrible. They couldn't, so they had to come out as like that other Bennifer movie. It wasn't fun to make, you know, the crew wasn't like their type of people, Kevin and Scott's type of people, and it was just not fun. It wasn't a good experience. Like, I'm sure that there's a lot of love for everybody involved for that movie, but it wasn't a good time. And as I talked about in the last video, the Snowball Effect episode, people were just, everything was kind of changing in the VSQ Kevin Smith world. Scott Mosier was thinking of retiring, and he was going to leave and just kind of not produce movies anymore and go away. And particularly, he didn't want to produce Kevin's next movie, which at that point was going to be The Green Hornet. Eventually became the Seth Rogen movie. Green Hornet's an old comic book character, old TV show, Bruce Lee was in it. And the Weinsteins, I guess, had the rights, and they asked, hey, Kevin, do you like comic books? Do you want to write and direct your own comic book movie? And Kevin was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. But Mosier was like, I don't want to do that, man. Like a $60, $70 million budget. We're not going to have any control. It won't be fun. Like, I don't want to make an action movie that way. I don't want to be working for other people. Like, I want to be the one in charge if I'm going to do this. And the last movie was so fucking stressful with the paparazzi and the celebrity and the tabloids and just, I don't know, man. I think I might be done. And they made the Snowball Effect documentary. They went back and revisited Clerks. And everybody kind of realized that what they really wanted to do was tell a smaller movie, tell a smaller story, do a smaller movie, and that became Clerks II. As I said before, Jason Mewes had been struggling with drug addiction for a while, and he'd gotten clean, and as kind of a thank you, or a, not necessarily a thank you, but just as like a thing for Jason Mewes, it was like, hey man, we're going to do one more Jan Silent Bob movie. It's a story I want to tell anyway, you know, let's get you some money. So it was sort of like a pseudo-promise to Jason Mewes, because there'd always been in the background of Mewes being on drugs, like, hey man, if you get clean, we can do another movie together, you know, we can kind of, you know, you can start your career over again after all the hardships. So that was in the mix. You know, the horrible experience of making Jersey Girl was in the mix, not wanting to go off and do this huge, expensive movie. That was in Kevin's head, and I think he just wanted to tell this story. This story about Dante and Randall. And what I just said about Scott Mosier thinking about bailing and not making movies anymore, that became kind of the central crux of the heart of Clerks II. The notion of two best friends who've been doing this for so long, and one of them decides he's going to leave. At the end of Clerks II, spoilers, you haven't seen it, there's that scene where Dante and Randall have a very intense conversation where, you know, Dante, the plot of the movie is Dante's going to move away. He's going to leave Jersey, he's going to get married, he's going to move to Florida and leave Randall there in Jersey by himself. And at the end of the movie, they have this long, angry discussion, wonderful, amazingly written scene, wonderful performances, where Randall says, like, if I'd have known you were just going to bail on our friendship 10 years down the line, I wouldn't have bothered with you in the first place. What the fuck? Don't leave me here. Like, why would you do this? Like, I wouldn't have gotten started in this nonsense and put all this time and effort into it if I knew you were going to leave. And that was sort of how Kevin Smith felt about Mosier and movies. Like, if you're just going to leave, then why'd we make these movies together? Like, you're the reason you're the reason I do this. So that's swirling around, you know, in Kevin's head, and it became the movie Clerks II. As I said in the last thing, there's an extensive documentary on the DVD covering the making of Clerks II, which covers the Green Hornet of it all. It covers a bit of the Jersey Girl of it all. It talks about the hurdles of the movie getting made, which weren't much. I mean, it was a small budget. Apparently, the first draft that Kevin Smith turned in to the Weinsteins was like 25 pages longer than the finished script, and Harvey Weinstein was just like, I don't know, man, I don't know if I like this or not, you need to do some work on it. And literally all Kevin did was cut 25 pages out, and Harvey, it was Bob, one of the Weinsteins, said, best rewrite I've ever seen, I can't believe how well this is, you got a green light. So just shorter is better, I guess, in Harvey Weinstein's head. So they got, I think it's a $5 million budget, or maybe like $6, and they got like a tax credit to shoot it for cheap. Shot in Los Angeles, primarily, a little bit shot in Jersey, but mostly shot in Los Angeles at an abandoned, closed-down Burger King. Just like the first Clerks, takes place all in the course of one day, for the most part. The plot of Clerks II, for those of you who haven't seen it, is It's been 10 years since the events of Clerks, and the Quick Stop burns down in the opening scene, the convenience store where they work. So the movie opens in black and white. Dante shows up at the store, opens the shutters, and the store is on fire inside, and the fire is in color. And on that shot, it transitions into a color movie. And the store burns down, so obviously Dante and Randall can't work there anymore. And they get new jobs at a Movies. Movies being the fast food franchise created by Kevin Smith. But, you know, Movie Land, the golden calf from Dogma. Feature films, animated video series, golden calf, movies. So they're working there. And how they get from Clerks to movies is explained in a comic book, which we'll talk about next time. Clerks II, Where's the Beef, I believe it's called. And while they're, you know, in the midst of working there for about a year or so, Dante meets a girl, falls in love, and they're going to move to Florida and get married. So the movie Clerks II takes place on Dante's last day in New Jersey before leaving Randall behind, leaving New Jersey behind, and going off to restart his life somewhere else. So you got Dante and Randall back doing their Dante and Randall thing, but there's also some new characters as well. There's Dante's fiancée, Emma, played by Jennifer Schwalbach, Kevin Smith's wife. There's a new employee, a new plaything for Dante to kind of, for Randall to kind of pick on and torture, who was Elias, this young kid played by Trevor Furman. Trevor Furman just made a video game, by the way. Check it out on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, a Jay and Silent Bob video game. So Elias is this uber Christian, very nice boy kid who works at the video store, at the movies, and Randall picks on him all the goddamn time. And they've got the manager of the store, Becky, who's played by the wonderful and lovely Rosario Dawson. And at some point during the before the movie starts, Dante and Becky had a bit of a fling. They fucked a couple times maybe, and it's clear they're in love with each other. But you know, Dante's got a fiance now. So the question becomes: will Dante choose to leave Randall and Jersey behind and move to Florida with his wife, or will he decide that he loves Becky and stay in New Jersey and find a way to restart his life? That's the plot of the movie. But just like the first one, it's very much based on hanging out at the store, having fun conversations, having deep conversations about what it's like to be in your 30s this time around. Kevin's always said that those movies are meditations on, or reflections on his life. So Clerks was very much what it was like to be in his 20s. Clerks II is what it's like to be in his 30s. And the upcoming Clerks III, I'm assuming, will be very much what it's like to be in your 40s, or at least what it's like for Kevin Smith in all those decades. So I mentioned in one of my other videos that Dave Klein, the guy who shot Clerks, Monsters Chasing Amy, Harvey Weinstein, or the Weinsteins, wouldn't let them use Dave Klein as a director of photography after Chasing Amy. So after Chasing Amy goes to Sundance and is this big success and a big homecoming after the failure of Mallrats, they got the good news that Dogma was going to be greenlit. They're going to go off and make their next movie. But they couldn't use David Klein and they couldn't use Joy Lauren Adams, the actress from Chasing Amy, who Kevin was dating at the time. So they had to kind of leave this wonderful event of like, yay, we got it, Chasing Amy's great, and we're going to make Dogma, and go tell two very important people in their worlds that they weren't going to make movies together anymore. Obviously, Joy and Lauren Adams came back to do a bit cameo part in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. But Dave Klein was kind of cut off. They wouldn't let him shoot Dogma. They wouldn't let him shoot Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and they wouldn't let him shoot Jersey Girl. Jersey Girl was shot by Vilmos Zsigmond, an Academy Award-winning cinematographer, worked with Woody Allen, worked with Spielberg a lot. I believe he shot Close Encounters. And he's just a real pro, professional, you know, not a lot of fun and games, you know, just this old school type of guy. And apparently it just wasn't a good fit on the set. Jersey Girl looks pretty, but in terms of making a movie and like the day in, day out drudgery of hanging out with the same people, Vilmos Zsigmond apparently wasn't a lot of fun. Plus Kevin just missed his friend. Like, the core elements of what makes a View Askew movie is Kevin, Scott, and Dave, those three guys. So going into Clerks II, they were both like, fuck you, man, we have to have Dave back. So Dave Klein, who'd been off working in TV, I think he shot most of True Blood, amongst many other things, was brought back into the fold to shoot Clerks II. And the movie looks fantastic, is why I tell the whole Dave Klein story. It is shot in color, like I said, but it was shot on film, and they did a digital intermediate, which is a process of taking the film and putting it through a digital, like putting it on a digital file so you can tweak the colors. For example, Pleasantville or Sin City, anytime you see something very stylized, that's a digital intermediate. What's another one that's famous? Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou has a very famous digital intermediate, because that's a movie where if you look at the raw footage, everything was bright blue and colorful. If you watch the movie, of course, everything is desaturated like a 1920s, 1930s kind of film strip. So they didn't want to shoot it in black and white. They talked about, like, should we shoot it in black and white or 16 millimeter? But no, they decided to go 35 and color. But to give it more of a you know, Clerks vibe, they desaturated all the color in the movie. They shot it desaturated and they did a digital intermediate. So the whole thing looks very grainy and lived in and real, except for this wonderful dance sequence midway through the film where all of a sudden the full color spectrum is there and it's just bright and wonderful and fun. The performances are all lovely. The dialogue is fantastic. Watching it again all these years later, I will say it takes a bit to get going. Just like the first Clerks, I think, these movies really hit their stride 20, 30 minutes in. The whole opening conversation about Anne Frank and Helen Keller, it's funny, but like it's a little bit like, all right, when are things going to get going? When's the movie going to start a little bit? And honestly, the movie starts when Rosario Dawson shows up, who is just luminous in the role. She is fantastically charming and beautiful, and I can't believe how strong her performance is. There's so much she does with her eyes, and anyway, great fucking movie, great performances. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a very quick watch. It's a real inspiring watch. Even my mother, who is very, she likes Kevin Smith movies, but vulgarity tends to turn her off. Even she'll admit that Clerks II is a really sweet story and a really oddly inspiring and uplifting kind of story about what ultimately happens with Dante and Randall, which I won't spoil in case you haven't seen it, but the last 15 minutes of this movie is just fantastic. It makes you feel like you can do anything, kinda. It's very quietly heroic, is the phrase Kevin Smith uses. So that's the movie. I saw it in theaters in high school, 2006. So yes, I was still in high school. Being a huge Kevin Smith fan, and like I'd seen Jersey Girl, and I liked it, but of course, like anybody else, I had a little bit of a. It was really good, but what happened to the vulgarity, or something feels wrong, and I later find out that that movie was cut to pieces and was like an hour shorter than it should be. So I was right, and that wasn't exactly a Kevin Smith film in the way it ought to be. So hearing about Clerks II, I was very excited, and a little worried. You never know. You don't want to ruin a good thing. So I went to go see Clerks II on opening day, and I ended up seeing it 5 times in theaters. It's fantastic. It was the opening day I saw it, and I saw it in Austin at a big chain movie theater, like a multiplex, so it wasn't like I was seeing it at an Alamo Drafthouse or some small indie film or an event where it's like clearly Kevin Smith fans. I just saw it opening day at a regular theater, and at the end, when something happens, I assure you we're open. How about that? That happens at a certain point. Once you've seen Clerks, you get the reference. The audience broke into applause. It was a very funny movie, very inspiring. As I said, there's a scene near the end where Dante and Randall have an extended argument, fight, discussion about the nature of their friendship and the past and the future and what they put each other through. That's one of my favorite scenes ever in movies. It's one of those scenes that I emulate a lot when I'm writing my movies. 2 characters in a room having an intense conversation. Jason Mewes is fantastic. Jay and Silent Bob are in the movie, but less than usual. And they're playing a sober version of themselves. They've having gone to rehab and gotten out to kind of as a little nod to Jason Mewes' real life sobriety. It's a fun time. Check it out if you can. As per usual, I'm sure you can find the DVD for cheap. As far as the DVD is concerned, it's a 2-disc set. There's a full-length documentary, like I said, that covers kind of everything from beginning to end. And the wonderful ending to that documentary, Snowball Effect, the ending was, holy shit, we got careers now, isn't this lovely? The ending to the Clerks II documentary, which it was such a struggle emotionally. Making the movie was wonderful. Everybody had a lot of fun. It was a wonderful shoot, but like, obviously the fan base was like, what the fuck, Kevin? I thought you were never going to make a Jay and Silent Bob movie, and you're going to make Clerks II. What if it's like The Godfather 3? And there was a lot of worry that it was going to suck. And there were a lot of people out there too who were like, why don't you grow as a filmmaker? Grow, Kevin Smith. Go make the fucking superhero movie. So, they loved the movie, but they weren't sure it was going to be embraced. They submitted it to Cannes, and Kevin was just like, I don't know if this is a Cannes movie, man. Like, this is not that, but okay. And they, long process, and they weren't hearing back. They probably weren't going to get in. And apparently they just decided, fuck it, we're done with Clerks II. We're not going to go to the Cannes Film Festival. Let's go on family vacation. And they got a phone call from Harvey Weinstein saying, you're in. You're in, midnight selection. We're going to Cannes. So everybody, the whole cast and crew goes to Cannes, and while they're there, like, movies like Marie Antoinette, which is about a French queen, are getting booed off the stage. So going to the screening, Kevin's just sweating bullets, like, holy shit, like, don't want to be here, I'm nervous, like, they're gonna hate this fucking thing. And as the movie played, A, he could tell the audience loved it, it was a wonderful screening, but B, when it ended, there was an 8-minute standing ovation for the film, and for Kevin and the cast and crew. That's a wonderful moment. It's one of those moments that you see in the documentary and you're like, fucking A, man, Kevin Smith's got a charmed life. I'd love to be that guy. So aside from the documentary, there's 3 commentary tracks. There's one with just Kevin, Scott, and Dave, which tells like a longer version of the story I told you about how Dave wasn't allowed to make Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, or Jersey Girl. It talks a bit, it's the technical commentary track about how they shot it, how they lit it, Very fun stuff. Those three guys go back to film school, you know, back in the 90s together, early 90s. So obviously they've got a lot of, you know, history together. It's a really fun, insightful, an interesting documentary about the making of this movie, Clerks II. Then there's the podcast documentary, which the plan was it was going to be released before the DVD. It was going to be released on the internet. You could download it and then go see the movie in theaters and listen to a commentary track. So it'd be an in-theater commentary. That got nixed. I guess people thought it would be distracting. But the commentary track is still on the DVD, and that's got Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall, and Scott Mosier again. Jeff Anderson was another one of those hurdles they had to get over to make the movie, he playing Randall. He was the guy who didn't really want to do Clerks II. He wasn't sure if that's what he wanted. He's not a professional actor in that kind of sense. You know, he just wasn't sure if it was a good idea. He just kind of liked how cool it'll, like, let's just leave it alone, let's not fuck with it. And it wasn't until he read the script that he was like, all right, maybe. And even then, like on the first day of set, it was just like, I don't know if this is going to work. And it wasn't until he saw some footage, because Kevin Smith was editing the movie during production. So they'd shoot all day. Kevin would get some footage back from like the week before, and he'd stay up all night in his hotel suite editing the movie. So as the movie was going on, he could show like essentially the finished movie to his cast and crew, something he's been doing ever since. So when the movie wraps shooting, he already essentially has an assembly cut. Very cool thing. So that commentary track with Jeff, Kevin, and Scott is about, you know, why they got together to make the movie, what Jeff's hurdles were to doing it, what his resistance was to the part, all that good stuff. Then there's the full cast commentary track, which has got Kevin Smith, Scott Mosier, Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante, Jeff Anderson plays Randall, Jason Mewes, who plays Jay, Trevor Furman, who plays Elias, and Jennifer Schwalbach, who plays Becky, who plays Emma. That commentary track, just it's one of those things, like as I said in one of my other videos about, like, when you're a lonely person and you just want to have friends, that commentary track is a ball, because it's such a tight-knit family. They make a lot of jokes. They get off topic from the movie. It's very, very fun watch, fun to listen to. There's a lot of, like, there's even some inner dynamics of, like, because Kevin and Jen are married, there's some of that tension over the whole thing. There's some stories behind the scenes about how Trevor Furman might have pissed off Jason Lee, or might have pissed off Rosario Dawson. Just fun stuff. Speaking of that, I forgot to mention, Jason Lee is in Clerks II. He's got one scene, and it's a standout scene. If you think of Kevin Smith movies, it's always the best friend who's a smartass. Like, that's the standout role. And it's always been, you know, Jeff Anderson as Randall, and Jason Lee as Brody/Banky. Oh no, the air conditioning came on. I'm sorry about the sound quality of the rest of the video. Anyway, Banky versus Randall, like that's kind of been, or Brody versus Randall, that's kind of been a debate among fans about who's the better wacky sidekick or funny smartass friend. So seeing those two actors go at it, those two like Kevin Smith icons have a scene where they're kind of antagonistically bumping each other up and trying to one-up each other is fantastic. Jason Lee as always gives a fantastic performance. He's rocking the My Name is Earl mustache because he was shooting the show at the time, but he was good enough to come out for a day and do a scene. Beyond the commentary tracks and the documentary, there's a few deleted scenes, there's a blooper reel, and there's something called these train wreck shorts. During the pre-production of the movie, they knew they were going to have a DVD release and a documentary, so they hired the guys, Zach and Joey, I believe their names, can't remember their last names, who shot the Snowball Effect documentary. Zach is actually in Clerks II as well. I don't want to spoil it, but he's in there. I can't remember his character's name. Yes, I can. Never mind. Anyway, he's in the movie as well. And they shot these behind the scenes all through pre-production, production, and post. And during the lead up to the movie, they'd release these little videos online at quickstopentertainment.com, which was just, you know, these 5 to 10 minute shorts doing about something. So this week we're talking about, you know, the costumes or whatever. And like 10 of them or so are on the DVD. It's called Trainwreck because the notion was like, let's just call it what it is, folks. This could be a total fucking, you know, a total colossal fuck up. It could be a train wreck, so here we go, a train wreck, the making of Clerks II. On the DVD, one of my favorite little behind-the-scenes things ever, while Kevin was cutting the movie and as he was finishing editing it and putting the final touches on it, he had Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez over, and the three of them watched the movie together. And it's great to see Quentin and Robert give advice as filmmakers to Kevin Smith. And I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure, snobby film types would be like, what the fuck is Kevin Smith doing hanging out with Quentin and Robert? Like, those guys make real movies. Kevin Smith just makes his potty mouth talk movies. I've never seen it that way, and it's clear between the three of them that they're all friends, they all admire each other's work. And it's really cool to hear Quentin talk about both Clerks and Clerks II, because Quentin being such a movie fan, it's clear that he loves the first Clerks, and the fanboy nature of, oh my god, Dante and Randall are back, you can see in his voice and the things he says that he loves Clerks II just for like the, just for the nostalgia of it all, and there's a lot of that going on in Clerks II. So there's plenty of behind-the-scenes footage, behind-the-scenes featurettes, lots of good stuff. It's a jam-packed DVD. It's a really fun, inspiring movie. Like I said, it's got a wonderful dance sequence in the middle of the film that's just, it's incredibly, like, just uplifting. This movie's very light, but also deals with some fairly heavy subjects. The soundtrack's fantastic. Jason Mewes is great, and it's just, what can I say? Clerks II is special. I love it quite a bit. So that's that for Clerks II. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. You absolutely should. The Dear Kevin for this week's a little bit, I don't really have anything specific to say about Clerks II. So essentially, I'm just going to be like talking about Clerks III. So let me get to that. Dear Kevin Smith, hello, I'm George Efta. This is my YouTube video series dedicated to all the things you do. And every video I like to tell you something directly to you, in the hopes that someday you may watch it. So today I wanted to tell you to please hurry up and make Clerks 3 or give us some kind of nugget of information about it. I read online, I have no idea how true it is because it's the internet, so probably bullshit, that once again Jeff Anderson doesn't want to do it. Apparently when you guys made Clerks 2, it was supposed to be like this big split with the profits between you and Brian and Jeff and Mewes and, you know, the Weinsteins. And the movie made its money back, but it's been, you know, like a decade or more, and the money's all tied up to the point where I think you actually had to do like an audit on the making of the film because Harvey Weinstein or whoever at Miramax or at Weinstein Company are being assholes about it. And I'm just not sure. I read that Jeff doesn't want to do it, and knowing his resistance to the second one, that would make sense to me. So I hope that's not the case. I know you're neck deep in Yoga Hosers and Moose Jaws right now. You're doing your Canada thing. I know you got Mallrats 2 planned as well. But I did hear that one of the reasons that Mallrats 2 got bumped up to shooting before Clerks 3 is that Clerks 3 is off the table now, and I really hope that's not true. So I can't be more excited for everything you're doing. I really can't wait for Clerks 3. The things you've said about it, the fact that it makes you cry when you talk about it, the fact that you're calling it the Empire Strikes Back of the Clerks world, it's exciting. It's really cool. When the few things you talked about it, there's a podcast or two you've done about it with Jeff Anderson and with Scott Mosier. Hearing you talk about this movie you're going to tell, I haven't heard you this excited and this passionate about something in a long time. It sounds like as much fun as you're having with Yoga Hosers and Moose Jaws, Clerks 3 sounds like, you know, the reason you got into movies in the first place, just like the first Clerks. So please give me some little nugget of information. Good luck with it. I hope it goes well. I'll be there opening day as always. And I hope it's fucking fantastic, man. I can't wait to see it. I hope that it's you know, the big crowning achievement on the View Askew universe. You know, I obviously can't wait for you to move on to more things. I love that you're going off in a new direction, but whenever I watch Clerks 2 now, at the time I was just happy to have it, and I was like, yeah, another Clerks movie, but it's been over a decade at this point, and when I watch it, I do wonder, like, what the fuck are Brian and Jeff doing? Like, what are Dante and Randall up to now? I really want to check in on those guys. In the same way Linklater checks in on Jesse and Celine, in the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight movies. I hope you keep making Clerks movies every 10 years, because those characters have become like family to me, like old friends, and I just want to know what they're up to. So, very simple Dear Kevin for this week, sir. If you watch the other videos, they're more complex, more in-depth, more emotional. But for this time, it's just like, boy, I love Clerks 2, and I really can't wait to see Clerks 3, so I hope you tell me something about it soon. Sincerely, George Efta. As per usual, guys, thank you for watching. I hope I haven't gone on too long about this one. I've been wanting to do Clerks 2 video for a very long time. I love this fucking movie so much. When it came time to actually talk about it, I was thinking about what I was going to say, and I realized it's just going to be gushing, like, praise. It's going to be all over the place rambling, which, granted, most of these videos are, but I tend to like the episodes more when I have something deeper to say than go see it, it's good. But go see Clerks 2, it's really good. I love the way it's shot. There's a sequence out back behind the movies where the camera is circling around Dante and Randall. Love that fucking sequence so much. It's one of those shots I want to steal someday when I get to make a movie. So, Clerks 2 is a fantastic little movie. It has made me cry on occasion. Anybody out there who's dealt with some friendship drama this probably hit a pretty deep note. This one and Chasing Amy, I think, are easily his most emotional, powerful films. And this one's got a lot more not a lot more heart, but a lot more fun to it. This is a lighter movie than Chasing Amy, which is pretty fucking rough at times. So go check out Clerks II, and I'll be back tomorrow to talk about one more Clerks II related thing, which will be that comic book I mentioned. So, as always, thank you guys. Check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. I don't have a Tumblr yet. Probably never. Fuck Tumblr. Twitter, Facebook, and the blog, adolescentconceptions.wordpress.com. And I'll see you tomorrow to talk about the Clerks II comic book. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.